She was forced to leave her baby behind, but years later the truth came out when her husband's family said she was unfit. She signed one paper and vanished. 12 years later, her daughter found the hospital file, and everyone who lied started calling her name. Original post: I'm Clara, 38, female. My daughter is Nora, 13, female. My ex-husband is Blake, 40, male. For 12 years, people in Blake's family called me the woman who abandoned her baby. That was the story they told at birthdays, at church picnics, at school events. At every moment where Nora asked why her mother was not there. Your mom left. Your mom chose herself. Your mom was unstable. Your mom signed you away. The last part was the only part with a little truth inside it. I did sign a paper, but not because I wanted to leave my daughter. I signed it because I was 25, recovering from an emergency C-section, barely able to stand straight, and surrounded by Blake, his mother, Lydia, and his father, Warren, telling me if I did not sign temporary guardianship papers, they would make sure I never saw Nora again. Back then, we lived in Raleigh, North Carolina. Blake and I had been married for 2 years. I worked part-time at a dental office. Blake worked in sales for a home security company. His parents owned a nice house, nice cars, and the kind of reputation that makes people believe them before they even speak. When I got pregnant, Lydia became obsessed. Not excited, obsessed. She called Nora our baby before the ultrasound even had a clear picture. She bought a nursery set for her own house without asking. She told people she was finally getting a second chance to raise a little girl properly. I should have paid attention to that sentence. During my pregnancy, Blake changed. He stopped asking what I wanted and started saying what his mother thought was best. Lydia said I should quit working. Lydia said my apartment was too small. Lydia said I seemed overwhelmed. Lydia said young mothers make emotional decisions. Every concern became proof against me. Then Nora was born early. It was a rainy Monday in March. I had severe pain, dizziness, and bleeding. Blake drove me to the hospital but spent most of the night texting Lydia. Nora came by emergency C-section at 3:42 a.m. Tiny, loud, perfect. I held her for less than 2 minutes before nurses took her to be checked. That was the first time someone took her from my arms. The next 2 days were blurry: medication, pain, nurses. Blake whispering in the corner with Lydia. Warren arriving with coffee and legal-looking folders. I thought I was paranoid from exhaustion. I wasn't. On the 3rd day, a hospital social worker came in. She said Blake had raised concerns about my ability to care for Nora safely after discharge. I laughed because I thought she was confused. Then I realized nobody else was laughing. Blake told them I had been crying, shaking, and saying I couldn't do this. I had said I was tired. That was true. I had just had surgery and slept maybe 4 hours in 3 days. Lydia said I was emotionally fragile. Warren said they only wanted the baby safe. Safe. That word has ruined more lives than people admit. Later that afternoon, Blake came into my room alone. He closed the door. He sat beside my bed and placed papers on the blanket. He said, "This is temporary. Just until you get better." I asked, "What is it?" He said, "My parents will take Nora home for a few weeks. You can rest. We can avoid a report. Everyone wins." I said no. He leaned closer. "Clara, if you fight this, they'll document everything. The crying, the panic. The fact that you can't even walk to the bathroom alone. Do you want a court deciding you're unsafe?" I stared at him. I said, "You're her father. Why are you doing this?" He said, "I'm protecting her." Then Lydia came in. She didn't yell. She smiled, which was worse. She said, "Sign it, sweetheart. Don't make this uglier than it needs to be." I was in pain. I was scared. I had no lawyer. My mother lived 4 hours away in Tennessee and didn't know how bad things were yet because Blake kept saying everything was fine. So I signed. Temporary guardianship. Temporary. That word was the lie that kept me breathing. Nora left the hospital with Lydia and Warren. I left 2 days later with a plastic bag of discharge papers and no baby. Update 1, 12 years later, I need to explain what happened between then and now, because people always ask why I didn't just fight harder. I did. I fought until I had nothing left but receipts and rage. The week after discharge, Blake moved out of our apartment and into his parents' house. He said Nora needed stability. He said I could visit when I was calmer. Every visit had conditions: no crying, no arguing, no asking to take Nora home. If I broke one rule, the visit ended. The first time I held Nora at Lydia's house, Lydia sat 3 feet away and timed me. 20 minutes. Then she said, "That's enough. She's getting fussy." Nora was sleeping. I called a legal aid office. The earliest appointment was 3 weeks away. By then, Blake had filed for emergency custody. His statement said I voluntarily placed Nora with his parents because I was mentally unwell and unable to provide care. Voluntarily. That word made me physically sick. I went to court with no attorney. Blake had one. Lydia sat behind him with a folder and tissues like she was the wounded one. The judge gave Blake temporary primary custody and supervised visitation for me until an evaluation could be completed. Temporary again. Temporary became months. Months became years. Blake controlled the schedule. Lydia controlled the atmosphere. If I brought gifts, she said I was trying to buy affection. If I cried, she said I was unstable. If I stayed calm, she said I was cold. I moved to Charlotte for a better job at a dental clinic. Not because I wanted distance, but because I needed money to keep fighting. That move became more proof. She left town. She chose work. She abandoned the baby. By the time Nora was 5, Blake had remarried a woman named Paige. Paige was not cruel. She was just convenient. She liked being called Mom. She liked the family photos. She liked not asking too many questions. I kept sending birthday cards, Christmas gifts, school clothes, letters. Blake returned some. Lydia threw some away. A few reached Nora because years later she told me she remembered a purple sweater with stars on it. That sweater kept me alive for a while. At some point, I stopped trying to win people who benefited from misunderstanding me. I focused on becoming undeniable. I became office manager at the clinic, took night classes in medical billing, bought a small condo, paid off $18,000 in old legal debt, kept every document in labeled folders, hospital discharge papers, the guardianship form, text messages from Blake, returned cards, money order receipts for child support Blake claimed I never sent. Screenshots of Lydia telling me not to come because Nora was too attached to the family that stayed. That line aged badly. 3 weeks ago, Nora found me, not through Blake, not through Lydia, through a school ancestry project. Her class had to make a family timeline. Nora asked for her birth records. Blake gave her a folder, probably without checking it. Inside was a copy of the hospital's social worker note. It said, "Mother appears distressed but coherent. Requests infant remain with her. Father and paternal grandparents request temporary guardianship due to concerns. Mother states she does not consent to permanent separation." Nora read that sentence. Then she searched my name. She found my clinic profile first, then my old Facebook, where my profile picture was me standing beside a lake in a blue jacket. Her message came on a Wednesday night. "Are you Clara?" I stared at it for 10 minutes. Then I replied, "Yes." She wrote, "Are you my mom?" I sat on my kitchen floor and cried without making a sound. Then I typed, "Yes, Nora. I am your mom." Update 2, 2 weeks later, I did not rush her. That was the first promise I made to myself. When your child has been fed one story for 12 years, you don't rip it out of her hands just because you finally have the truth. You let her hold both stories and decide which one has weight. Nora asked questions carefully at first. "Did you leave me?" "No." "Did you sign papers?" "Yes." "Did you want to?" "No." "Why didn't you come get me?" "I tried. I have documents if you ever want to see them." She replied with one word, "Please," so I scanned everything. Not emotional captions, not angry notes, just documents, the hospital note, the temporary guardianship form, the court order, old visitation schedules, receipts for gifts, the returned letters still sealed, The money orders, screenshots. I sent them in one organized file, then I waited. She didn't answer for 2 days. On the third day, she wrote, "My dad said you didn't want me." I replied, "Your dad lied." Then I added, "I'm sorry you had to carry that." That was the first time she sent a voice message. She was crying. She said, "I thought something was wrong with me. I played it once. Then I put the phone down and walked around my condo because if I listened again, I might break something." That night, Blake called from an unknown number. I knew before he spoke. His first words were, "What did you say to my daughter, my daughter?" After 12 years of calling her the child I left, I said I answered her questions. He said, "You had no right." I said, "I had every right. You lost the luxury of managing the lie when you handed her the file." He went quiet, then came the old voice, the one from the hospital room. "Clara, think carefully. She's a child. You're confusing her." I said no. "The truth is organizing her." He called me bitter, dangerous, manipulative. I said, "Do not call me again. Any communication goes through writing." Then I hung up. By morning, the flying monkeys arrived. Paige messaged me first. "I don't know what happened years ago, but Nora is devastated. Please don't punish her father because you're hurt." I replied, "Ask Blake for the hospital note." She wrote, "What hospital note?" "Of course." Then Lydia called my clinic. Our receptionist, Brianna, came into my office looking uncomfortable. "There's a woman on line 2 saying she's your daughter's grandmother and this is urgent." I said, "Transfer her to voicemail." Lydia left a message. "Clara, you need to stop this. You are hurting that child all over again. You were not ready then and you are not ready now." I saved it. Documentation. Always documentation. Then Warren emailed me. Subject line, family matter. Body, we can avoid legal action if you cease contact with Nora until adults can decide what is appropriate. Adults. I forwarded everything to an attorney named Dana. She handled custody and family cases. Consultation fee was $350. I sent her the old court order, Nora's messages, Blake's call log, Lydia's voicemail, and Warren's email. Dana said, "Nora is 13. Courts will care what she wants, but we need to move carefully. First step is a formal letter. No threats, just boundaries." The letter cost $700. It stated that I was Nora's biological mother, that I had not initiated contact, that Nora had contacted me seeking medical and family history, and that any harassment of me or interference through third parties would be documented. Blake responded by showing up at my clinic. He stood in the lobby in a gray jacket, older but the same, still handsome in the way people trust before checking facts. Brianna called me. "Clara, there's a man here. Says he's your husband." I almost laughed. I said, "Ex-husband, please ask him to leave." She whispered, "He says this is about your daughter." I walked out because I wanted cameras and witnesses. Blake said, "We need to talk." I said no. He lowered his voice. "Nora is refusing to speak to Lydia. She skipped dinner. She locked herself in her room. Are you happy?" I said, "I'm sorry she's hurting." "I'm not sorry she knows." His eyes hardened. "You always do this. You make yourself the victim." I said, "Blake, you took a recovering mother, threatened her, built a custody case around her pain, and then told her child she left. There is no version of this where I'm the villain." The lobby went silent. Brianna stepped forward and said, "Sir, you need to leave or I'm calling building security." Unexpected ally number 1. He left. But he wasn't done. Final update, 3 months later the truth came out in court, but not the way I imagined. I used to picture a dramatic scene. A judge slamming papers down. Blake exposed. Lydia crying. Nora running into my arms. Real life is quieter, more paperwork, more waiting rooms, more people saying things like modification of visitation and best interests of the child while your heart tries to climb out of your chest. Dana filed to modify the custody and visitation arrangement, not to rip Nora away from the only home she had known. That mattered. I was not going to become what they accused me of being. We asked for unsupervised contact, therapy-supported reunification, access to school and medical records, and an order preventing Blake and his family from blocking communication. Blake fought it. Hard. His response said I had resurfaced after years of absence and destabilized Nora. He claimed I was rewriting history. Lydia submitted a statement saying I had willingly left because motherhood overwhelmed me. Then Dana submitted the hospital note. The original guardianship form. The text Blake sent me 6 weeks after Nora was born: if you keep pushing, my parents will make sure visits stop completely. The returned letters. The money order receipts. Lydia's voicemail from this year saying, "You were not ready then, and you are not ready now." That line mattered, because it showed she still believed readiness was hers to decide. Nora also asked to speak privately with the judge. I was not in the room. Blake was not in the room. Only the judge, Nora's appointed advocate, and a court reporter. Afterward, Nora came out with red eyes but a steady face. She looked at me across the hallway. Not a movie hug, not yet, just a look. But it was the first time she looked at me without the lie standing between us. The order came 2 weeks later. I was granted weekly video calls, 2 in-person visits per month at a family therapy center for the first 3 months, then unsupervised daytime visits if therapy supported it. I was given access to school records and medical history. Blake was ordered not to monitor, block, or punish Nora for communicating with me. The judge also wrote one sentence I read maybe 50 times. The record does not support a finding that Clara voluntarily abandoned the minor child. 12 years. One sentence. That was all it took to give the truth a legal address. Blake called me after the order. I didn't answer. He texted, "You got what you wanted. Hope you're proud." I replied through the parenting app Dana recommended. I wanted the truth. Nora deserved it more than either of us. He didn't answer. Lydia tried once more. She sent Nora a long message about loyalty, family, and how some people only return when the hard work is done. Nora sent it to her advocate. The therapist addressed it in session. Lydia lost unsupervised time for 6 weeks. Consequences. Late, but still satisfying. Our first official visit was at a family therapy center in Charlotte. Neutral room, soft chairs, terrible wall art. Nora walked in wearing jeans, white sneakers, and the purple star sweater, not the original one, obviously. She had outgrown that years ago. This one was new. She said, "I found a picture of the one you sent me. I bought this online." That was when I cried, not loud, just tears I could not stop. I said, "I'm sorry I wasn't there." She said, "I know," 2 words, not forgiveness, not full healing. But a door. We spent that first visit talking about small things, her favorite cereal, my terrible parking skills, her science teacher. The fact that she hates mushrooms and I also hate mushrooms, which she called suspicious genetics. At the end, she asked, "Did you think about me every birthday?" I said every birthday, every Christmas. Every first day of school I had to imagine. She nodded. Then she said, "I don't know what to call you yet." I said, "You can call me Clara until you're ready." She looked relieved. That mattered more than being called Mom. Because love does not demand a title before trust has a place to sit. 3 months later, we are still rebuilding, slowly, carefully. Some days she asks questions that hurt. Some days she gets angry at me for not winning sooner. I let her. She has earned anger. She has earned confusion. She has earned the right to not make my pain easier. I got promoted at the clinic to regional operations coordinator. Better pay. More flexibility. I moved to a slightly bigger apartment with a 2nd bedroom, not because I expect anything fast, but because hope deserves a place to sleep when it visits. Blake and Paige are separated now. Paige sent me one message through the parenting app. I didn't know. I'm sorry. I believed her. Lydia still tells people I'm destroying the family. That's fine. Some families deserve destruction if the foundation is a lie. The lesson I keep learning is this: truth does not always arrive in time to prevent damage. Sometimes it arrives years late, carrying files, scars, and a child old enough to ask why nobody told her. But late truth is still truth, and my daughter knows now. She was not left. She was taken, and I never stopped reaching. If you've ever had the truth come out years after everyone believed a lie, tell me in the comments what happened. Please subscribe, like, and share this story, and comment whether you've faced something similar or what your opinion is.